Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Bhasatya Tarini Namaste Saraswati Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jayo Gopi Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jayo Radha Krishna Chandra Radha Krishna Chandra Radhe Jayo Jagannatha Jayo Baladeva Subhadra Mai Jayo Chaitanya Jayo Nitai Chaitanya Jayo 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 Prabhupada 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada Ram Sankirtan ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Jai Gautama Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim YatkripatamahamBande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyeshwara. Okay, Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to this Sunday special program on Srimad Bhagavatam. Thanks to all the senior Vaishnavas for giving me a chance to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. This, like Sumit Prabhu mentioned, is going to be the concluding session for this special program. And we really hope that devotees are happy, serious, interested with whatever they have heard so far, to take on, to read Bhagavatam very seriously in the coming days. So that's the whole intention of these 6 sessions that we had so far. So before we get into today's discussion, I know we had a wonderful session by Pransiki Mataji last week on the most important topic of entire Srimad Bhagavatam, the beautiful lotus face of Lord Shri Krishna. So let's go from there. Let's continue our hearing. Let me share my screen. Let me know when the screen is visible. Hoping. Okay.
Yes,
Sumit
Prabhuji.
Prabhu, thumbs up. Okay. Yes, thank you. Okay. So yes, again, like always, please, I request the blessings of all the Vaishnavas here, so that whatever I speak is authorized, and I'm sincere in my effort here. We are going to talk a little bit of Gauranga Mahaprabhu through the conversation today, and we will see why we are doing it. And I'm not sure we'll have enough time, but if possible, we can touch upon the coming wonderful festival as well, Radha Ashtami. So going back, the fundamentals, we should be clear by now on this. I'm not sure how many of you remember this, but at least by seeing this, we should know the topics here, right? So we established it in the very first class by Kapame Gaurang Prabhu. First 2 cantos are the lotus feet, third and fourth are the thighs, and so on. So last week, the 10th canto, we saw the beautiful lotus face of the Lord, where we will take Ashraya. That was a topic on Ashraya. So today, Canto 11 and 12, we'll be covering the forehead and the head, or we are going to talk about Mukti or liberation at the lotus feet of the Lord. And then we'll also talk about Nirodha, which is going to talk about the annihilation, the different types of annihilation. Again, like always, we'll try to talk about not all the topics. Again, Canto 11 and 12 are vast. So what I would probably do is cover some Katha and some philosophy through that Katha, and then we can see what else is available in the chapter at a very high level, very, very high level. So please understand this, the PPT that you're seeing is prepared for my reference. It is not, neither is it exhaustive, nor it is got everything that needs to be there. It is a quick reference guide for the flow, for today's flow rather. Okay. So let's see, again, the very fundamental, the first 9 topics actually establish or prepare us to hear the 10th topic. That's how it works. So the 10th topic is again the most important, the most dearest for the devotees. It's very pleasing, very wonderfully explained by Pransaki Mataji last week. So if any of you have missed it, we request you to go back and watch that video. It was very nice, lot of wonderful pastimes and the takeaways from those pastimes. Okay, moving further. So what happens in the 11th and 12th canto? Let's do this instead of actually going through this. We will take it up from the topics from the next slide. Okay, right. So this is our 11th canto. Let me just minimize the other windows here. Okay, so the 11th canto is called General History. In this canto, we will actually see the topic of mukti, like what we actually mentioned in the beginning, through some philosophical conversations that happened between King Nemi and Navayogendras. Oh, who are these? What did they discuss? We'll briefly touch upon, very briefly touch upon it. Some very nice popular shlokas are there. We'll touch upon it. Most people know that the 11th canto speaks about Uddhava Gita. So we'll try to touch upon Uddhava Gita. We'll see if one or two philosophical points and katha, if possible, around the topic of Uddhava Gita, where, when, how. And finally, we will see the conclusion of Lord Krishna's pastimes, how Lord Krishna disappeared with the entire Yadu dynasty. So this is what is on an overview of what's there in the general history or in the 11th canto. Okay, let's start with basically the very simple of topics, which is wonderful katha. Now, so by the end of 10th canto, Lord Krishna is very well established in Dwarka. His people are all very happy. The kingdom is flourishing. Everything is going well. Now, during the peak of this season, this time, now there were a lot of sages, including Narad Muni and Vashishta and all those people who actually visited them at Dwarka. Very nicely welcomed. They were taken care of very nicely, and then they actually went into a forest. Now here, the sons and grandsons of Lord Krishna, and they wanted to have some fun. They wanted to have some playtime. So they dress up the lady in this photo. You can see the pregnant lady. They bring a pregnant lady to these sages. All of them start questioning the sages. They tell this lady is very shy to reveal her face. She's expecting a baby in a few months. She really desires to have a boy or a son. So can you please, can you sages please, because you sages are so wonderful, you know the past, present, and future. Can you tell us what is, who will it be, a boy or a girl in the womb of this lady? The sages looked at this person there and they become very angry, and they reply back saying, "Oh, my dear Samba, the son of Krishna, who is dressed up as this lady, from your womb will come an iron club that will be the cause of destruction of this Yadu dynasty." So the very first chapter in the 11th canto starts with the curse on the Yadu dynasty, saying the Yadu dynasty will be completely destroyed because of this one pastime that happened, wherein the boys tried to have some fun. The son of Jambavati and Lord Krishna, who is Samba, was dressed up as the girl, as a pregnant girl with a club or iron club hidden in the stomach. Now, as soon as they heard this curse, the boys became very scared. So they immediately rushed from that place, completely sad and sorrow, and they immediately rushed to Ugrasen, the king, and they went to Ugrasen and their grandfather, and they told, you know what happened? This is the story. So we tried to have some fun, and the sages cursed this way. So Ugrasen looked at these boys and said, "You did your mischief was not recommended. It was not correct, and you know." The Guru Sadhu Shastra mentioned that any offense that you commit at the lotus feet of Vaishnavas is not easily pardoned. So we have to probably go through this. Let's do one thing. Let's take that iron club. Obviously, now that they have taken it out, they show that club to Ugrasen. He says, powder it and throw it into the ocean. So they powder the club very nicely. You know, the top of the club will have a sharp edge, right? The top is not broken. They were not able to powder it. Rest of the rest of the club, they were powdered it. They threw it along with that piece, the top also thrown into the ocean. And over a period of time, what happens? The iron filings that were thrown into the ocean, they actually came to the shore of a place, and they started growing up as uh, trees, as bamboo trees. And this particular piece that was not powdered, that was swallowed by a fish. And this fish was later caught by a hunter called Jara. He looked at it, it looked very nice, sharp, expensive club. So he used it as the tip of his arrow. That's where the chapter ends. Okay, so you know what where it started, the curse, and now the trees, the bamboo trees are grown. The club's head is there with the hunter. The chapter ends. Going forward, there are some conversations between the sons of Rishabdev, the 9 sons. So Rishabdev, had 100 sons. Out of it, the first son is the most famous, Maharaj Bharat. The other 9 sons became yogis, and these were called the Nava Yogendras, or the 9 Yogendras. These sons actually meet Maharaj Nemi of Mithila. Maharaj Nimi was a very, very wonderful devotee of the Lord. Around the same time when the Lord was present, and so Lord personally had met him, and there were conversations with the Lord. So he was such a wonderful personality. Now these Navayogendras came to meet this Maharaj. So we saw, if any of you remember, right from the first canto, whenever wonderful personalities meet yogis, elevated souls, the first question they ask is, what is the topmost thing for the human beings? So we saw that, right? We saw how the sages of Naimisharanya asked Sutta Goswami the same question. So here we see a wonderful shloka which was narrated by, or which is recited by Maharaj Nimi, and he says, Durlabho manusho deho dehinam kshana bhanguraha tatrapi durlabha manye vaikunta priyadarshanam. He says, for the conditioned souls, the human body is most difficult to achieve, and it can be lost at any moment. But I think that even those who have achieved human life rarely gain the association of pure devotees who are dear to the Lord of Vaikuntha. Now, if we go back and we try to understand this, so through Bhagavad Gita, through the early chapters in cantos in Bhagavatam, we have seen how progressively the Lord is glorified. Progressively, the devotees of the Lord are glorified. Here, getting a human born, Manusha Janma is extremely rare. We have already seen that. Manushyanam Sahasreshu also we have seen. Okay, all that in Bhagavad Gita itself. So here he says that, see, it's so difficult to get a human form of life. In this human form of life, the even more difficult thing, even more rare thing is to get the association of a pure devotee of the Lord. Why? Because these pure devotees are so dear to the Lord that even though they are ready to give mercy to the whole world, it is very difficult to find such a pure devotee. Becoming a pure devotee of the Lord is a very elevated position. It's not an easy situation. Okay, so the word Mahatma can be loosely used in material ways, but a pure devotee is the Mahatma who understands the Lord, because they are very dear to the Lord, and the Lord is very dear to them. Okay, so this is what he says, because he's got the association of these Navya Yogendras. This wonderful conversation, it runs 2 pages, so we will not be discussing all those. We'll see a couple more shlokas that are more popular for us, and then we can see these are some of the instructions that were given to Maharaj Nimi by the different personalities among the Navya Yogendras. I do not have the personality names. You can always refer back to the Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 11 on this. So this shloka, most of us know, Tasmat Gurum Prapadyate Jignashu Shreya Uttamam. Okay, therefore, any person who seriously desires real happiness must seek a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. Okay, very, very, very important point. See, you found a pure devotee of the Lord. If you find a pure devotee of the Lord, you should surrender to that devotee. Okay, that will give you real happiness. Whatever else that you're searching for will not give you real happiness. So you should take shelter of such a person, you should take initiation from such a person. Guru Maharaj is giving initiation on Radha Ashtami. I'm hoping some of you are prepared for it. Otherwise, I'm really hoping that some of you are preparing for it. There are some devotees who got initiated in the last couple of days. Loknath Maharaj gave initiation as well. So, you know, uh, it's very important, very interesting to know. When me and my wife got initiated, we were in Shri Mayapur, the end of Bhishma Panchaka. So we had Ras Purnima. On that day, we got initiated in November, on November 14th. So um, we were there, and as soon as we got initiated, which is very obvious, right? So we send out messages to all those wonderful Vaishnavas who had blessed us through our progress. So, and there was one constant message that we received back. The language can be different, but the message was very sharp and clear. The message said, "Welcome to the family." And you know, we got initiated, or by then I was like 6 7 years into Krishna consciousness when we got initiated, and I was like, I thought I was always in the family of Krishna consciousness. No, you are still a guest, still someone who is trying to enter into the family, but you're not considered the family till you actually get formally initiated or formally sheltered under a bona fide spiritual master. Important lesson for all of us to take here. So that's what is being read here, and the qualification of a bona fide spiritual master is given here. We can read about it anyways. So what happens when you actually surrender to a guru, surrender to the Supreme Lord? This what happened. Again, a very famous shloka. We are jumping chapters. If you have seen first chapter, we spoke about the curse. Second chapter, Maharaj and me meets the Navayogendras. We are in chapter 3, chapter 5. We'll move on faster here. Quite a few chapters to cover in quite a little time. So Devrishi Bhutaptananam Pitranam na kinkaro nayam Rinicharajan Sarvatmanas Yaha Sharanam Sharanyam Gato Mukundam Parihartha Krityam. What happens to a person who takes full shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda? Okay, who offers shelter to all. This Mukunda is not, the person who takes shelter is not indebted to demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, mankind, or even one's forefathers who have passed away. Okay, since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one who has surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately. Again, another lesson that we can learn, saying that if we are serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all other so-called uh, you know religious activities that we need to do, so-called uh, ritualistic activities that we need to do, are automatically taken care of. Does it mean I will not do my responsibilities? No, it does not mean that. But you're not indebted to do those responsibilities. Like, for example, my family follows Satyanarayana Puja every year. The Ganesh Chaturthi went by. For devotees, you don't necessarily have to do it, but we can always worship Ganesh ji as a servant of Lord Narasimhadev. That's the right mood. Ganesh ji will be happy, right? So we are not indebted to the demigods, rather we are happy because they are personal servants of the Lord, they're representatives of the Lord, they're managers of the Lord. So we actually understand that they are representing the Lord, and that's how we respect them, not as individual supreme personalities. Okay, this way there is no, so what happens if you're born as human being, do not surrender to the Lord, so you will have to follow the rituals. If you don't follow, you get a lot of papa karma and you will have to suffer. So if you do all these pious activities, you get punya karma, probably get elevated to the pious planets. Now, if you surrender to the Lord, you don't have to worry about this upar niche business. You don't have to go to higher planetary systems or lower planetary systems because it's taken care by the Supreme Lord. Again, through this conversation, this wonderful shloka comes in. Like I said in the beginning, we always hear the shloka when we talk about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the most famous. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sangapangastra Parshadam Yagnai Sankirtana Prayer Yajanti Hi Sumedasaha. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. Okay, there can be multiple versions, multiple explanations to this. For us, as given by our acharyas, as given by Srila Prabhupada and our spiritual masters, it's is talking about that personality who is going to spread, who is going to come here to give us the congregational chanting of the holy name to become very, very dear to the Lord. He comes with his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. That is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, very clearly mentioned in the 5th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. This he's in a Krishna. Okay, now let's continue. So these conversations happen with Navayogendras. There are a lot of philosophical topics. I'm not touching into them, both in the interest of time and in the depth of those topics. We'll come back to what happened. Um, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and many other personalities now are visiting Krishna at Dwarka. They glorify Krishna as usual. They tell, thank you so much for appearing. You have spent about 125 years on this earthly planet. You have re-established dharma, like whatever you wanted. You have taken care of demons, and you have taken care of personalities like Kamsa and so on. So they glorify Krishna a lot, and they also tell, no, Lord Krishna, you have given us the responsibility of taking further care of everything. So we will take care of it. If you wish to return to your abode, please feel free. So Lord Krishna obviously was waiting for this conversation. It was all according to his plan. So he decided, okay, let's actually get a wrap up to this entire leela of what we are doing. So he calls on his Yadu associates, the multiple Yadu families that are there, Vrishnis, the Kuntis, and all those. So all of them. He said, let's have a party. Let's go to a place called the Prabhasik Kshetra. Looking at this particular mood of Lord Shri Krishna, the way he invited everyone, his very dear friend Uddhava goes to Krishna and he says, I sense something wrong, my dear Krishna. Can we have a discussion of what you are trying to do? Why do you want to take away all these people from here? Okay. And Lord Krishna and Uddhava's conversation there is what is very famously known as Uddhava Gita. That forms the major portion of the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Very wonderful instructions. So if you all remember, there are 5 basic topics that are discussed in Bhagavad Gita, right? So it's the Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, and Karma. So going beyond that, there are the topics that are in depth that are discussed. And Lord Krishna, through the conversation, also gives information to Uddhava through different stories or different pastimes that happen. It could be the Avaduta story, it could be the Aila Gita, it could be the story of Pingala, and so on. So here are some of the topics I've put in. I'll see if we can cover any of these. Otherwise, we can move on. It's almost 5 o'clock, so have another 30 minutes. We have another canto to cover as well. So Lord Krishna speaks of the 24 masters of Avadhuta on the pigeon of attachment. So actually, very beautiful. If I'm not sure if any of you have this book by Purna Prajna Prabhu called the Srimad Bhagavatam in a story form. You can actually read. These are very nicely listed down there. Very nice topics are there. I can probably share that book's heading with you in some time. Okay. There's this story of Pingala. I can probably quickly touch upon. So among other things, Pingala is the story of how a prostitute is waiting desperately for a person to come on that particular night, and slowly she understands that looks like no one is coming. I'm left alone, and she goes into somewhat of a depression, and suddenly she actually remembers the lotus feet of the Lord, and something transforms in her, and she becomes very elevated. She becomes a devotee. How it says that moment of association with the Lord actually can pull you up. There are multiple things in the nature how we can learn how the bee behaves, or I think I have some about 9 examples in the next slide. We can probably look into it. Topics around renunciation and knowledge, then about the different siddhis that can be achieved, the varnashrama system. Through these conversations, we also had, I think, Maitreya Muni, who actually comes in there, and Lord Krishna tells him that please hear to this conversation between me and Uddhava, and you can then go and actually, you can actually go and spread it to, give it to Vidura much later, because he will actually catch up with you. For people who know Bhagavatam's flow, they will actually understand that Maitreya Muni actually gives some of this knowledge to Vidura in the first canto itself. So there's a very nice connect here to that, how Maitreya Muni actually gets this knowledge. Lord Krishna actually elaborately talks about the Varnashrama system, the importance of Bhakti Yoga, the process of deity worship, and there's a wonderful set of instructions through the song of Avanti Brahmana. Okay, and it concludes with Jnana and Bhakti Yoga. These are the different topics. Each topic, each topic will at least be a class by itself. So let's not go into each of this, but I strongly recommend each of you to actually get some time and read some of this, or if possible, all of this. They're very nicely listed. Even in this book called the Uddhava Gita, that's actually listed here. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's purport to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's topics. They were also pretty good. Okay, these are some of the Avadhuta Brahmanas. I think some lessons we can learn here. For example, how an intelligent person should behave like a python. That means what does a python do? Just waits, ajar, right? So it just waits whenever it needs food. The Lord arranges for it food and it will come. We should be like that. We should do only our devotional service. Whatever is needed, the Lord will actually take care of it. Or it like a male elephant is usually caught using a female elephant. I think if you're too attracted to the opposite sex, we'll actually be falling into the ditch. How a sannyasi behaves like Madhukari, collecting only what is needed for that moment, like a honey that takes, the bee that takes the honey and starts accumulating. But a real devotee or a brahmana or a sage in this case, which mentioned a mendicant, is someone who will not accumulate for for the future, because he's never going to worry about the future. He's always going to be surrendered unto the Supreme Lord. Okay, there are different instructions. Probably I can share this PPT. These are quite nice. You can go through it, but these are wonderful points. Lord Krishna continues, like we just saw. He also talks about Varnashrama system, deity worship. Very important. The most important piece on the 17th chapter talks about Varnashrama. People who have questions on Varnashrama, when we are discussing, Bhagavad Gita's Varnashrama program, then you can actually come to the 17th chapter of 11th Canto. You will get more details. I like this particular instruction. So I've just put in the photo at the right bottom, which says one should never associate with materialists, those dedicated to gratifying their genitals and bellies. By following them, one falls into the deepest pit of darkness, just like a blind man. Important instruction, very easy. We saw how glorious is the association of devotees. Equally glorious is not associating with materialistic people, because they can very easily pull you away from the core focus or direction towards the Supreme Lord that we should have. Okay, so now coming back to our katha. So Krishna has called everyone to the Prabhasik Kshetra. There, obviously, they do some ritualistic activities. This is modern day Somnath. For people who have gone there, there's a wonderful Lord Shiva temple, and also there is this Prabhasik Kshetra in that place where Lord Shiva actually finishes his pastime. There's wonderful temple. There is that people tree, if I'm right. For people who have not been on to yatra to these places, you should be. They're very nice, beautiful places as well. Anyway, what does Krishna do? He gathers all of them. They do a lot of austerities. They pray very well. So all the men are assembled there, and Krishna had already informed his chariot driver and Uddhava to actually take care of the women and the children and elders back in Dwarka, asking, somewhere communicating back to Arjuna, saying that take the womenhood to Hastinapur for further, take care of them. Okay, so all the men are assembled. They do all the ritualistic activities. Then that night they actually have a wine made of rice. And by Krishna's plan, they are all intoxicated. They start fighting with each other. If you look at Srimad Bhagavatam, it says the father fights the son, the brother fights the brother, the grandfather fights the grandfather, and so on. So everyone. So what do? They are assembled at the place where the iron filings were thrown into the ocean. The ocean had put them on the shore. The bamboo trees had grown up. They pluck these bamboos, break them, the sharp bamboos, and they start hitting each other and killing each other with it. Okay, so that's how the curse that we saw in the first chapter ends here in the 30th chapter, with the entire Yadu dynasty being wiped off. Okay, Lord Baladev sees all this, he obviously knows this is all Krishna's plan, and he actually merges into the ocean. He takes the form of a snake, or the sarpa that he is. He gets into the ocean. Some people say he meditates and merges into himself. So this is what happens to Baldev. Krishna understands all these pastimes. He goes under the people tree that we just discussed, and he just relaxes there. As he's relaxing, he actually gets into his four-handed form of Vishnu. And what happens? This Jara is hiding behind a tree, looking to hunt, and there he sees the thumb on the foot of Lord Shri Krishna, and he sees the toe rather of Krishna's lotus feet. The feet is beautiful red, and he sees that from that far distance. He says, "Wow, it is so beautiful! Looks like there is a wonderful deer there." So he takes out his arrow that he made from the top of that club that was thrown into the water, caught by the fish, taken by Jara the hunter. So he connects back. He takes it and shoots the arrow to the left leg of Lord Shri Krishna, and Lord Krishna pastime actually ends there. So the hunter comes and says, "Sorry, if for people who are interested, the background story of this Jara is also very beautiful. How he was Vali in his previous birth. This is not necessarily from Bhagavatam. This is from the different Acharya's commentary and Katha that I have heard. So how he was the Vali in previous birth, and Lord Ram had actually given him the permission to kill him by hiding, and then he comes here and actually shoots at Lord Sri Krishna, and he meets Lord Krishna and tells sorry, and then Lord Krishna says, "Don't worry, you can go back to Vaikuntha. Your work is done here." So that's how this hunter Jara actually gets delivered to Vaikuntha. The conclusion of the last chapter in this particular thing is how Lord Krishna disappears. Very elaborate chapter. I will not probably go into it, but all the demigods from Lord Brahma to Lord Shiva, all the demigods and their consorts, everyone come and actually pray. And Lord Krishna doesn't. So all of them are inviting. No, Lord Brahma says, "Please come and visit my Satyaloka." So Lord Krishna doesn't heed anything, but he actually disappears and goes back to the spiritual abode. It is said, the Acharyas actually mentioned, like for the atheists, they want to see Lord Krishna's body dead. So Lord Krishna actually ends his pastime that way. Okay, he could have ended it in many different ways, but this is how he ends his pastime. So that ends the Canto 11. Okay, so with Lord Krishna actually disappearing in the previous canto, what really holds for Canto 12 is a conclusion of what we started in Canto 1. So if you remember Canto 1, Sukadeva Goswami had not even pitched in, right? It was Sutta Goswami, sages of Naimisharanya, the glorification of the Pandava family, the Yadus and all that, right? So now we are coming back to that, where the story actually unfolds itself and reverses. So that's what happens here. So Canto 12 is called the age of deterioration. Okay, why are they assembled? The sages of Naimisharanya, they are awaiting the Kali Yuga to come. So they want to know what are going to be the symptoms of this age of Kali Yuga. I have some notes, I'll probably talk about it. There are going to be topics around destruction. What are the types of destruction? We're going to discuss that, 4 types of pralaya, and then the insignificance of losses in the material world. So the whole purpose of actually reading this 12th canto, from my understanding, is that, see, there is going to be destruction at every point in time. So whenever we are at loss of anything, anything material for that matter, we should definitely understand that it is very, very insignificant. It is not got a long holding at all. So we should be very clear on that. Okay, so what does this contain? So let's actually, why is my system not going back? Okay, so this probably I'll talk about the summary, and then we can take on a couple of topics specifically. So what happens? Sukadeva Goswami is now telling what will be some of the symptoms of this age of Kali. I couldn't make all the notes that I wanted. Now this is the book I was talking about. I'm hoping you can all see. This is the Srimad Bhagavatam contents, or the story edition by Purna Pragna Prabhu. This is very nice. This has some of the symptoms listed down. I'll probably read from that, so to make it very, very, very easy. Men and women will live together simply on the basis of mutual attraction. Okay, living together will become very, very common. Okay, in Kali Yuga, wealth alone will enable one to be considered high class or a gentleman. Okay, a person's spiritual position will be judged merely by his external symbols he adopts. Dress is the one that we'll talk about. A person is judged useless if he is poor. People will visit spiritual places or sacred places and take bath only as picnics. Okay, the earth will become overcrowded by degraded population. Climate will not listen to anyone. There's a very nice point here. I think we keep hearing it says that the beauty of a person is judged by the different hairstyles that the person will have. These are, there is a huge set of predictions that are there in the 12th canto on how the future will be there in Kali Yuga. These are some of them. How everything will be about physical strength. Duration of life will be completely down. Memory will diminish day by day. There will be zero tolerance, cleanliness, mercy, truthfulness, and religion as the age progresses. Okay, there will be people will create their own different religion and try to have different propaganda around it, saying my religion is better than yours without understanding what is there in the religion. And lot of it that we are seeing today, we are just in the beginning, of Kali Yuga. It's just 5,000 years. We still have 4,29,000 years to go, so we can understand how worse this will happen. And this is all explained by Srila Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit, because Parikshit was very curious to know what is the future going to look like. Okay, so how Mother Earth will be treated, and he actually talks about them. Then he's going to talk about the four kinds of annihilation. We'll actually see it in the next slide. Uh, After hearing all this from Sukadeva Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj actually accepts, and that's the end of 7 days. So he's bitten by the snake bird, and he uh, leaves the world. So that's his pastime that concludes. Then, of course, Suta Goswami concludes the narration of Srimad Bhagavatam as he's heard from Sukadeva Goswami. So through this 11th and 12th canto, actually, you will see Sukadeva Goswami actually telling the crowd that, look, this boy Suta Goswami is going to narrate this entire episode in the future. Okay, so this is already predicted or already foretold by Sukadeva Goswami, and Suta Goswami actually finished up saying that Sukadeva Goswami, I had predicted it, and thanks to his blessings, I'm able to speak about it. So he concludes Srimad Bhagavatam to the sages of Naimisharanya, and then he talks about the various Vedas and Puranas and who are all in charge. This is a very specific, nice, pious history of Markandeya Rishi that is mentioned. Markandeya Rishi has actually got the boon of staying across Brahma's life, Brahma's days. So it's a very, very nice piece. Philosophical by nature, I would suggest devotees to actually take some time and read that as well. Then there is a summarization of all the topics that are there in this literature. And finally, the benedictions for a person who actually hears, reads, uh, uh, you know, brings home a Bhagavatam or actually gives a Bhagavatam. That is actually mentioned to wrap this up. These are all there in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Uh, I like this particular topic. This topic talks about different kinds of annihilation that are there, or the four types of material annihilation that we can actually see. They're called the constant, occasional, material, or final annihilation. Okay, what are these? The constant annihilation or the Nitya Pralaya. This is, every day there is deterioration. It could be to your body, to your family, to the world population, to living entities. So there is a deterioration that keeps happening. Our health keeps deteriorating after a certain period and so on. So this ends, the pralaya ends with the soul leaving the body. This nitya pralaya is called consistent or constant annihilation, and this one is not to do with the soul, but it is to do with the body. Okay, these are all material annihilations, please understand. The next one is called the Naimittika Pralaya, or the occasional. This happens at every night of Brahma. So all of us know what is Brahma's lifetime, one day of Brahma, Kalpa. Okay, let's not go into details of it, but most of you should already be knowing, right? So in the night of Kalpa, the night of Brahma, what happens? When Brahma goes to sleep, the lower planetary systems up to Swargaloka or Swaloka are all annihilated, and that is called the Naimittika Pralaya. They all get submerged into water. Brahma wakes up in the morning and starts recreating. Okay, this is typically known as the partial annihilation that we know of. Then there is this material annihilation or the Prakrita Pralaya. Okay, so all of us know this is Karanodakashaya Vishnu. who is sleeping in the causal ocean or the Karana ocean. He's the cause for every universe. So we saw this is within our experience. This is at Brahma's level. This is beyond Brahma's level. Okay, so here each universe actually goes into the body of Mahavishnu and actually come out. He's also called as Mahavishnu, right? So this is called the material pralaya or the Prakriti pralaya, that is annihilation of the entire material cosmos. At that point, that universe is annihilated. It is recreated with the breath of Vishnu, right? So we know in one breath of Vishnu, all the universes go in, and when he breathes out, the universes come out. This is called the material pralaya. Now, I will pause here. I want to know if someone wants to tell me what is the answer. What could be the final pralaya? Does anyone want to try? What could be the final pralaya? If the entire material world is destroyed, what could be the final pralaya? Any guesses? We have only 10 minutes to cover rest of it. Devotees can unmute themselves, I'm hoping. Or you can put it in the chat log. Yes, Lalita Mataji, go ahead.
Think like how it has happened, maybe all the people will go, only the real good people, maybe with that Manu, when it happens in one of the after Treta Yuga or something like that, Manu, only those people, I think he will take them, all of them, like that only it will happen, or something else.
So in each of these pralaya, there's different levels, but I like the way of thought. So this annihilation, the Prakrit pralaya actually talks about the living of the entire material universe, right? The entire universe goes and comes out. So what could be beyond that? Okay, beyond that is when we actually go back to the spiritual world. This is called the Atyantika pralaya, or this is the final pralaya or annihilation of an individual soul. Okay, when the individual soul actually goes back to the Vaikuntha planet, that is called the Achyadika Pralaya or the final Pralaya. It is not to do with the material creation. I was also very curious to know, okay, so is there a point in time where we are going to tell there is going to be no material creation at all? Everything is going to be just spiritual? Not necessarily. This Pralaya is going to talk about the individual soul who actually goes back to the Lord. He actually meets the Lord, stays with the Lord. That's called the final pralaya. These are the 4 types of annihilation that's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 12. Okay, very wonderful shloka. I mean, if I had not put this shloka, I think Ranjit Prabhu would not have forgiven me. It's one of his favorite shlokas. We hear it very often from him. This is from Canto 12, chapter 351. Kaler dosha nidhe rajan asti eko mahadguna kirtanadeva krishnasya mukta sangha param rajat. So this is, concluding words of Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. He's concluding, he's telling, oh, my dear king, although Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, there is still one good quality about this age. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one can become free from material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental kingdom. So we just saw how Parikshit Maharaj was curious to know what will happen in the future. And Sukadeva Goswami actually is mentioning in the future, there's going to be extreme amount of deterioration. This chapter is called the age of deterioration, right? So Kali Yuga comes, the kings will be extremely impious, and he talks about the different symptoms in the Kali Yuga. But he says, don't worry, my dear Parikshit, in Kali Yuga, asti eko mahan guna, and there's one mahad guna that is there. What is it? Just by chanting the holy name of the Lord, all your problems of this Kali Yuga that we have just seen, the symptoms of Kali Yuga that we have just seen, is all annihilated. It's all taken care of. So he actually says this to Parikshit Maharaj, which actually gives the relief to Parikshit Maharaj, right? So Parikshit Maharaj, the very first question that he wanted to know, or very first thing that he wanted to know is, what is the purpose of a dying man? Along with the fact that he wanted to know what should one do in his human form of life. Okay, and in Kali Yuga, the human form of life is so deteriorated that people start living like animals. I was just looking at one of the quotes this morning. It said that according to material science, it talks about how animals evolved to become human beings. But according to our Vedic Shastras, if you look properly, we are evolving from being humans to actually becoming animalistic, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Ahara nidra bhayamaitunam cha samanyam etat pashubirnarana. We are actually going into that Ahara, Nidra, Baya, and Maituna, more and more comfortable. These four things. That has become the way of life. So Parikshit Maharaj's fear is removed by Sukadev Goswami by assuring him that in Kali Yuga, don't worry, there is a higher possibility, or there's a better possibility, or there is a simpler possibility of one becoming a pure soul and getting back to Godhead. Okay, Shloka 52 is continuation. Rather, it says what are the different qualities that are there in each yuga. So, Krite yat Dhyayato Vishnu Tretayam Yajato Mukha Makhaihi Dwapare Parichaya Nam Kalo Tad Harikirtanam. Right, so whatever results one obtained in Satya Yuga by meditating on Vishnu, Treta Yuga by performing sacrifices, Dwapar Yuga by serving the Lord's lotus feet, can be obtained simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in Kali Yuga. So he assures, this is the assurance that is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, like we say, if a person reads Bhagavad Gita sincerely, at the end of it, he will actually surrender to Lord Sri Krishna. Similarly, if you read Srimad Bhagavatam properly, at the end of it is very simple. You will actually surrender to the Lord through His holy name. There is no doubt at all. By the time you come to the 12th canto, you're very clear that Lord's holy name is the best calling. It could be Prahlad Maharaj story in a canto, or it could be Dhruv Maharaj story. It could be different kathas that we have seen across. Just the holy name of the Lord will actually give us the perfection of our life. Okay, and then now after Sukadev Goswami gives the information to Parikshit Maharaj finishes his pastime. Now we come down to the end of this canto where Suta Goswami is concluding to the sages of Naimisharanya about what and what not. And here he's actually telling them, Nimna Ganam Yatha Ganga, Devanam Achyuto Yata, Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu, Purananam idam tata. So we usually use this Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu, right? So we always say, okay, like the topmost of Vaishnava is Shambhu or Lord Shiva. It says, just as Ganga is the greatest of all rivers, Lord Achyuta, the supreme among deities, Lord Shambhu, the greatest of Vaishnavas, so is Srimad Bhagavatam, the greatest of all Puranas. Okay, so the Sutta Goswami concludes by saying Srimad Bhagavatam is the topmost or the greatest of all Puranas. Okay, and then he continues. In fact, in the next one, he actually says, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Hari, the congregational chanting of whose holy names destroys all sinful reactions, and the offering of obeisances unto whom reveals all material sufferings. So he concludes it by saying that you actually, this congregational chanting of the holy name will actually take you back to God, back to, back to home. Okay, so that's where we end. That's where we end with the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. We end with the glories of chanting of the holy name, congregational chanting, the wonderful opportunity that's provided by Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual masters, and of course all the wonderful Vaishnavas that are associated here. They could be your mentors, your Bhakti Viksha leaders. It could be devotees from the temple. They are all giving us the opportunity to associate, which we saw. Maharaj Nimi praying that it's easy. It's easy to be in the material world. It's very difficult to get a human form of life. Most difficult, most rare is to get the pure association of devotees, and we are getting association of devotees, and we are getting association of the Supreme Lord in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so Srila Prabhupada says one should learn how to associate with the devotees of the Lord by gathering with them to chant the glories of the Lord. This process is most purifying as devotees thus develop their loving friendship. They feel mutual happiness and satisfaction, and by thus encouraging one another, they are able to give up material sense gratification, which is the cause of all sufferings. Okay, so I will stop here. I know I'm just on time. If devotees have any comments, if we have Krupamay Prabhu, Rancho Prabhu, Pransaki Mataji, or anyone who wants to add on to something that we have said, because we are concluding with Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Aprajit Prabhu, if any of you want to add anything, please feel free. We can take some questions, maybe one or two, and then we can also see if any of the devotees want to talk about Srimad Bhagavatam or the upcoming Bhadra Purnima as well.
Yeah, bro. So one point I wanted to add, bro.
Yes,
So,
Prabhu,
yeah, so as you mentioned that the Lord Krishna, what is it?
Hari Kirtanam.
Tad Hari Kirtanam, and the only best thing in this world right now is Lord Krishna's name. So that doesn't mean that only Krishna. Krishna always means that Krishna and devotees. and devotee always means that devotee and Krishna. So we should not separate them, devotees and Krishna. We should not generally people, just by chanting and staying at the home, will not be able to progress in our life. Or and just meeting a devotee and not discussing about Krishna, that also will not achieve any result. So that means we should always consider Krishna and his devotees. That was my
Very wonderful point, Prajit Prabhu. Absolutely correct. I mean, that's the best process that we have in hand, right? So it says if you are human being, you will be preaching, you will be staying with devotees association, right? If you have life, you will preach. That's what we learn from our acharyas, learn from Mahaprabhu, and of course Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur emphasized it. So yes, devotee association is the most important, because we do not associate with Lord properly. I think our association is through devotees, and we see the Lord through the devotees, which is perfectly valid point, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Anyone else has any questions, comments? Feel free.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Saravanan here.
Yes, Prabhu.
So, Prabhu, you mentioned about that last pralaya, right? Atita pralaya or something.
Yes,
Right?
Prabhu.
So that means like in that phase, whoever has been merged with Mahavishnu, the material creation and all the jivas, so they all go back to Krishna Loka. Is it like that?
It's not about merging, Prabhu. So Atyantika Pralaya is for an individual soul. The annihilation of an individual soul's material life. That's what we are talking about, Atyantika Pralaya. It's so we all fly our own aeroplane, correct? We
Yeah.
don't go together. So there's no scope that all of us are in the body of Mahavishnu and go back. That's why I wanted to make it very clear. It is up to the individual to actually go back to Godhead.
Okay.
And that going back to Godhead, getting away from our material situation, that is called the Atyantika Pralaya, or the final prayer. And that's for the individual. It's not for the community at large. It's not a pralaya like what we understand. That's why I paused there to make that point again clear. Thank you for asking. Saying it is not for a wholesale deliverance. There is no point in time that I know that there will be a wholesale delivery that will be available, that all of us, even though we are not devotees, will go back, because we are not ready for it, right? So
Yeah.
it's for individually us to annihilate our material situation and go back to Lord. That's the last one.
Thanks, Prabhu. Thanks.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone else? We are. I know we are off time. I see Rancho Prabhu, Pransaki Mataji, unmuted, muted. Kripami Prabhu, if you are still there.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. You can hear me?
Yes, Prabhu. Go ahead. Gaurav Prabhu. Gaurav Prabhu.
Prabhu, I wanted to understand. So when one soul return back home, back to Godhead, so it is being told that if one become pure devotee, he returns, then the 14th generation also become liberated. So what kind of liberation the 14th generation got at that point of time?
So I'll tell you my understanding, Prabhu. The 14 generations get an opportunity to get back to Godhead. That means they are given a favorable situation where they can develop their love and go back to Godhead. Not that they will automatically get a free ticket. Like again, the opportunity is there that you get the ticket, you get the flight. The getting onto the flight is left to you. Kripami Prabhu, you want to add something?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, so yeah, that's true. I mean, the only difference there from what you answered, Prabhu, is that the 14th generation up and 7th generation down is totally 21 generation. What really happens is their karma is all removed. So they are free to choose what they want. So they will actually have a very, what do you call, good position for them, favorable situation for them to go back to Godhead. But if they don't use that opportunity to go back to Godhead, you cannot blame the Lord. But their karma will all be removed. They don't have to suffer. Imagine I'm supposed to actually take a body of a dog, and somebody in my family actually is a pure devotee. I don't have to take a body of a dog. I will get a body of a devotee, or in a devotee family I'll appear, so that I have all the facilities. But if I don't take it seriously, I will not go back to God. You can't force.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
The Lord will not force you to get back to God. You have to actually make your own endeavor and go.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yes. Gaurang Prabhu, I'm hoping it's clear.
Yeah, thanks, Prabhu. Thanks for the wonderful conclusion and the wonderful session.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, Prabhu, any closing words on Srimad Bhagavatam? We rushed through 12 cantos in 6 weeks. So
yeah, that's actually a humongous effort by all the devotees. You gave session Pranasingh Mataji gave the session, then a few other devotees also gave. Prabhu spoke about Bhagavatam. So it was nice. I mean, we actually learned all the 12 cantos, a glimpse of all these 12 cantos. Now that Bhadra Purnima is coming on the 20th, so it's a great opportunity for us to actually really study Bhagavatam on that day. And also encourage others to also read, because wherever Bhagavatam is there, then Kali will not actually touch them. Such families have actually become more peaceful. May not happen overnight, but if you see wherever Bhagavatam is there, 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line, their life will be completely different. Yeah, but it's a great thing to actually see so many things there. There's a lot more things there in Bhagavatam, but we actually touched upon only the cream of all the pastimes. There are various sampradaya, the whole the solar lineage and the lunar lineage. You see how Lord Ramachandra comes. All these things are mentioned in Bhagavatam. We didn't really touch upon all these things because lack of time. But yeah, great summary, bro. Sanatana.
Thank you, Prabhu. I think thanks to all the devotees. Pranasingh Mataji's class, Prajit Prabhu had to prepare overnight. Sorry for some of my mistakes, and then we had Suki Prabhu also.
Yes, Suki Prabhu.
So we had wonderful session. I think somehow or other we got a chance to read and hear Srimad Bhagavatam, which doesn't usually happen. We are very happy with our Bhakti Viksha material and Bhagavad Gita. So it's a really nice change for some of us at least. I enjoyed.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much for giving wonderful session. So from 11th canto about how Lord disappeared, it was a nice understanding. Many people will misunderstand these points. So we have to thoroughly study 11th canto to understand the real meaning of how Lord left. And also the 12th canto talks about the Kali Yuga's people's the positive of it and negative of it also. So positive of it is that we have holy name of the Lord Krishna, and negative of that we will be easily dragged into hell. So devotees can understand based on what they decide, they can choose. So thank you, Prabhu. So let's all chant one time Hare Krishna Mahamantra for the spiritual progress of Prabhu and everyone. Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama Rama Hare.
thank you, Prabhu. There are a couple of announcements. So next Tuesday we have Radhastami on 14th. So devotees can fast on that day till noon. And Friday we have Ekadashi. And the next day Ekadashi break time is a very short time. It is around 6:10 to 6:50, around only 50 minutes we have for Ekadashi breaking. So all the devotees, please note down that time. We'll share the timings in the WhatsApp group also, but just to make you, generally we'll have a fast breaking time from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock. But for this Ekadashi, the fast breaking time is only for 50 minutes from 6 to 6:50 like that. So please make sure that you all note it. And for the Saturday is the Vamana Dwadashi. So for that on Ekadashi, we'll fast till noon, and then after that we can take Ekadashi Prasadam. And on the Sunday, the fasting till noon for Bhakti Vinod Thakur's appearance. Yeah, Bhakti Vinod Thakur's appearance day. Yeah, and Bhadra Purnima is not yet over, so the devotee can still try for distributing the Bhagavatams. Anybody else? Yeah.
Sunday we have our Radhashtami program also, online program.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So next Sunday, 19th is Radhashtami celebrations. We'll have wonderful programs. We'll share the details in the WhatsApp group. Hare Krishna. So we'll stop here, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare.
Hare
Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you,
Prabhu.
Prabhuji.
Thank you so much.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, devotees. We'll meet again on next Sunday for Radha Ashtami celebration. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.